All right, so the main idea of what we're going to do here is set up a formal way for solving one-step equations. Now, I know most of you can do this in your head, but that's not the point. The point is, how are we going to actually communicate to somebody else how to unravel or solve these equations? So the first equation we have is y, a variable, plus 3 equals negative 10. The main goal anytime we do this is to get the variable part, or in this case the y, by itself. So to do that, we need to isolate the variable, or we need to undo whatever operation the variable is currently involved in. So when we look at this half of the equation, y plus 3, we can see that something is being added to y. So to undo that, we're going to use the inverse of addition, which is subtraction, and we're going to subtract the same amount. So this is called using inverse operations. Now, to keep our equation balanced, whatever we do on one side, we have to do on the other side. So we'll subtract 3 over here. Positive 3 and negative 3, or adding 3 and subtracting 3, cancel out, which leaves us with just a y on the left. And over here we have negative 10 and negative 3, or negative 10 minus 3, which is negative 13. So our answer appears to be y equals negative 13, but let's just check this like we learned in our previous units. So to do that, we will substitute in the value for y, negative 13, in parentheses, plus 3 equals negative 10. Negative 13 plus 3 is in fact negative 10, which is the same as negative 10. So check, we have done that. A different example is what happens when we have w, a different variable, subtract 8 equals negative 12. Now same idea, we want to get the variable, the w, by itself. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we are going to do the inverse of subtraction, which in this case is addition. And instead of subtracting 8, we are going to add 8. And we will do the same thing on the other side of the equation. Let's see what we get. Negative 8 and positive 8 cancel one another out, which leaves just w on the left. And on the right, we have negative 12 plus 8, which is negative 4. So once again, the key things that we're looking for here are, have we shown the same operation on both sides of the equation? So that's our property of equality, plus 8 on the left and plus 8 on the right. And the second thing we're looking for is, do these two operations cancel one another out? Negative 8 and positive 8, or subtract 8 and add 8. So to finish this particular question off, we will check our answer. W, we said, is negative 4 minus 8 equals negative 12. Negative 4 and minus 8, let's just do a quick little add the opposite. So negative 4 plus negative 8 is negative 12, and that equals negative 12. So once again, check. Looks like we've done that properly. We're going to move on to doing the same idea, but this time we will use multiplication. So remember, like we learned in our last unit, when you have a number in front of a variable, coefficient, that means that those two numbers are being multiplied. So the same idea, we want to get the variable all by itself. So to do that, we have to use the inverse operation. We know that this is multiplication. The inverse of multiplication is division, and we are going to divide by 4. And we'll do that on the other side as well. The 4's cancel each other out, leaving us with an A, and negative 24 divided by 4 is negative 6. Now there's actually a second way to do this one, which becomes more useful later on when we work with fractions. And in this case, instead of dividing by 4, we're actually going to multiply by the inverse of 4, which is 1/4. So we'll multiply by 1/4 on this side, and we'll multiply by 1/4 on this side. So same idea, 1/4 times 4, well those 4's cancel each other out, leaving us with just a, and negative 24 times 1/4 those, remember we can simplify, so that's a 1, and that becomes a 6, so we get negative 6. So the same answer, just a different way of doing it. And like all of our equation solving, we will always check our work. So 4, put the negative 6 in parentheses, equals negative 24. 4 times 6 is 24. The signs are different, so we have a negative equals negative 24. So once again, check, hooray, we are correct. The final problem is a division problem, right? So same idea as every other time. We are trying to get the variable by itself. So to do that, we are going to use the inverse operation of division, which in this case is multiplication. And instead of dividing by 5, we want those 5's to cancel out, so we will multiply by 5. And the property of equality says what we do on the left, we also do on the right. So we get those 5's cancel out, leaving the variable by itself, and negative 3 times 5, I guess that looks like a decimal, but it's a time sign. The negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. And once again, we will check just to make sure. We'll put that negative 15 in parentheses. Divided by 5 equals negative 3. Negative 15 divided by 5, yes, is negative 3, and that is in fact equal to negative 3 on the other side. Remember to complete your check so you have a single value, and hopefully the same single value on each side. Check that is correct. So, as a recap, there are two main things we're looking for. The first one is what we're calling inverse operations. And that means, are you canceling out a constant by either using addition or subtraction? And are you using multiplication and division for coefficients, I guess? These two operations go together and cancel each other out, and these two go together and also cancel each other out. The other thing we're looking for is this thing that I will call the property of equality, or you will see me call this the POE. And that is essentially that concept that whatever we do on one side of the equation, like we did up here, times 5, we do to the other side of the equation times 5. And that helps us make sure that both sides of our equation are in fact balanced. And that is the expectations surrounding solving one-step equations.